How my fiance cheated on me while I sent her to college. It's a story that's honestly hard to tell, but here goes. I'm 23 and I've been with my girlfriend, Sarah, since high school. We started dating our junior year, and for a while, she was my everything. We'd talk about everything, stay up late texting about our dreams, our plans, our future together. Back then, it felt like we were inseparable, like whatever life threw at us, we'd face it together. After high school, we went in different directions. I wasn't really into college. I mean, I was a good student, but I just never saw myself fitting into that academic world. Instead, I got into the trades, found myself a decent paying job as an electrician apprentice, and honestly, I was pretty proud of myself. I was learning something useful and was excited to start making money, even if it wasn't a fancy desk job. Meanwhile, Sarah went off to college. She was studying business, and I was so proud of her for chasing her dreams. But college wasn't cheap, and even though her family helped her a bit, they couldn't cover everything. I offered to pitch in with her tuition. I mean, I loved her, right? And I wanted to do whatever I could to support her dreams. We talked about getting married after she graduated, buying a small house, maybe even starting a family a few years down the line. I proposed to her about a year ago, right before her final year in school. It felt like the right time. She said yes, and I remember feeling like the luckiest guy alive. I thought everything was falling into place. I'd saved up for a ring and planned the whole thing. We were so happy, or at least I thought we were. But then things started to change. Slowly at first, almost so subtle that I didn't notice. She became more distant, didn't call as much, took longer to reply to texts. When I'd bring it up, she'd say she was just busy with school and her internship. And it made sense. She was doing a lot, so I tried to be understanding. I didn't want to be the overbearing fiancé who was always questioning her. But things kept getting worse. She'd cancel plans last minute, say she was too tired or that something came up with school. I was always left trying to justify her behavior in my head, telling myself it was just a rough patch. But in my gut, I felt something was off. I ignored it, hoping I was just being paranoid. Then one night, I remembered texting her to see if she wanted to hang out. Maybe go for a late night drive like we used to. She didn't respond for hours. When she finally replied, her response felt cold, almost annoyed that I'd even asked. It stung, but I still didn't think the worst. I'd invested so much in this relationship, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally. I had faith that she was still the girl I fell in love with. But then I found out. One of my friends called me one night, saying he saw Sarah out with some guy, and it didn't look like a just friends situation. At first, I didn't believe it. I mean, why would she cheat? We were engaged. We had a future planned together. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away, so I did something I'm not exactly proud of. I went through her social media and found a picture of them together. It wasn't obvious, but it was enough for me to connect the dots. Finally, I confronted her. I didn't yell or lose my temper. I just asked her calmly if there was someone else. She didn't deny it. Instead, she started crying, telling me she was confused, that things just happened. She tried to explain, saying she felt we were growing apart and that she was different now than she was in high school. It felt like everything she said was just another stab, another reminder that I'd been giving my all while she'd already checked out. After that, I cut off contact. I stopped paying for her tuition, gave her the ring back, and walked away. I was heartbroken, angry, embarrassed, all of it. It's been months now, and I'm still picking up the pieces. I learned a lot about trust and loyalty, and what it means to invest in someone. But I also learned to value myself more and not let someone else's choices define my worth. I'm working hard, focusing on my trade and slowly moving forward. It still hurts, but I know I'll come out stronger for it. Update. About 3 months after we'd gone our separate ways, I got a text from Sarah out of the blue. I saw her name pop up on my screen, and for a second, I just stared at it, not sure if I even wanted to open it. Part of me still felt hurt, but another part of me, honestly, was just curious. Her message was long, filled with apologies, regrets, and explanations. She said she'd been doing a lot of soul searching and claimed that she'd realized she'd made a huge mistake. She admitted that the guy she'd been seeing didn't mean anything and that she'd been going through a phase of self discovery. She told me, missed us, and wished she could go back to the way things were. I'll admit, reading her words stirred something in me. I'd loved her for years. She was my first everything. First love, first serious relationship, first person I could imagine a future with. But after all the hurt she'd caused, after the way she just tossed me aside, I didn't know if I could trust her again. She kept messaging me over the next few days, saying she wanted a chance to talk in person, to explain herself better. She even asked if we could go on a drive like we used to, maybe get some coffee just to talk things over. She said she wanted to see if there was any chance we could rebuild what we had. It was tempting, honestly. For a split second, I thought about what it would be like to let her back in, to have those moments with her again. But every time I imagined it, I couldn't shake the memories of those nights when she ignored my texts. Those times when I knew something was wrong but kept lying to myself. I remembered the trust I'd put in her and how she'd broken it. Eventually, I texted her back, telling her I needed to move on. I told her I'd cared about her, loved her, and given her everything I had. But that part of my life was done. She responded with another long message about how she understood and that she'd always be there if I changed my mind. After that, I blocked her number. I figured if I was going to move forward, I needed to let go completely. I wasn't about to keep a door open to someone who'd shown me I couldn't count on her when it really mattered. And as hard as it was, it felt good to finally put my foot down and choose myself.